Hey everyone, my name is Matt Sonneborn. I'm the principal trumpeter of the Naples Philharmonic, and this is Practice Techniques COVID edition. I hope you're all washing your hands and staying safe and enjoying being in very close proximity to your family all of the time. So, with that said, let's talk a little bit about some different ways we can practice. You know, they say, give a man a fish, you feed him once. Teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So I've always been frustrated as a teacher that there isn't more emphasis on practice technique. When I was a student at the New England Conservatory of Music, my solfege teacher instilled these sort of habits into me. So one of the topics I want to get right into is called stop method. Now, what is stop method? Stop method is a method where we decide to stop playing before we make a mistake. Now imagine you get to sit next to your buddy in band and you get a squirt gun, and every time he stops and you not before a mistake, you get to squirt him with that squirt gun. Okay, so he's going along. Every time he plays, he can stop wherever he wants as often as he likes. Now here's like an example of kind of a complicated little piece. This piece is by Hans Werner Henze. Very, very intimidating when you first look at it. All that black and what are these patterns and what the heck is this thing? And honestly, I've never performed this entire work. May never. But here are some ideas. All right, so I'm going to start at what's familiar. I have part of a B flat major triad right at the beginning there. And then why don't I stop again? I can stop as often as I like with this technique. The idea is to start to practice things and make as little mistakes as possible reinforced over and over again, because when you make those mistakes repeated, you're kind of practicing mistakes in a way. Okay, so I took lots and lots of time to make sure I knew what I was doing. Now I'm going to group a few more of those together, which will lead us to our next topic, which is go ahead method. Now in go ahead method, you still get that squirt gun, but if they stop this time, you get to squirt them. So it's okay to make as many mistakes as you have to make. We try not to make mistakes, right? But it's okay to make mistakes in this version. I'm still going to go at a fairly conservative pace here and see what happens. I'm going to try and put together what I just played for you a little bit, piecing together. This is go ahead method. Not too bad. Some little things to clean up, but really going slowly and finding these little patterns to just sort of take one little section at a time made it possible for me to learn something. And I knew little parts of it. What you want to look for is, what do I already know about a piece before I start? So the first question you want to ask is, what key am I in? In this sort of piece, we have to find our own tonalities, okay? We're kind of synthesizing little scales here and there. Now in a more, let's say, traditional piece that obviously has more of a minor key here, I'll show you an example of a famous trumpet etude. This is Charlier Etude number 2. Now what I'm going to talk about is note grouping on this one. First of all, we identify a key. It looks like it could either be D flat major or B flat minor. Okay? So we're going to go with the latter because it ends a lot cadencing, and we have a minor-like feel right from the beginning. So I'm going to show you that practice technique. I'm going to go 2 notes at a time, grouping thusly. So in this case, that was the first 2 notes, then the second 2 notes across the bar line. We always want to try and group across the bar line and avoid the obvious. So let's try that again. Now I'm going to put a few of those together. Just concentrating on 2 notes at a time for a while until that feels like you can glue those things together. What you want to get the feeling of is some sort of organizational comfort. Now, that doesn't always come naturally. You have to kind of stop before you get that sort of butterfly feeling of panic that we tend to get when we read for the first time, just hoping that maybe we'll make some sense out of it. Okay? So then the organization of the rhythm. We don't see anything too fantastically difficult rhythmically in that first line, right? But look later. I always try and I scan a piece of music for the first time and say, okay, what do I know about this? What is going to catch my attention as difficult? And let's look at those sections, maybe not worry about the things that we already are going to be able to just sort of read pretty well, okay? So I'm going to identify a couple of things real quick. All right, I'm scanning this and I see ties. Those are always things you want to look at because ties are kind of little traps. Look at the second line in the 4th bar here, okay? We have to make sure that we're subdividing over that dotted 1/4 eighth. What happens? We have to be thinking then we're okay, okay? So subdivide those sort of things. Look, there's sort of an intimidating another tie on the 4th line. Look after that sort of triplety melody there in the 4th line. Can we see? Yes. So bum bum ba da 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 da. So that tie, we kind of have to find a way to deal with that tie. Bum bum ba da da ba da 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 da. Always take the ties out in your practice or in your mind and put them back in. That's the way to sort of solve that problem and make it unintimidating. So I'm going to go slowly with this because these are kind of fast notes. We're implementing multiple tonguing, which is another skill I can talk about briefly for us brass players that we struggle with. Don't tell anybody else that we have trouble with this, okay? So now we have a dotted eighth. There's 3/16 in that. All right, so now we've got that part of it. Just do that and you'll know where to come off of that tie. Now let's take the tie out completely. That's the 2nd bar of the 4th line here. This is what I'm playing. Da 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 dum bum bum ba da dee dee da 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 dee da dum. We don't have to deal with the grace note yet. Let's take that out and put it back in later. In fact, I'm going to leave out that triple tonguing section. Right, so that's that section. Really just making what we already know apparent. Then we can add the things that we don't know, okay? So I'm going to take the triple tongue out and just make it a duple first, and then put the triple in. So now when we talk about multiple tonguing, this is for us brass players out there that we struggle with. The main thing you want to really concentrate on here is not what you think of with the difficulty in tonguing. It's actually the air going through, okay? So we'll do single tongue and then double tongue and then triple tongue on this particular passage. And to practice that, let's first do it on one note. Pick G for yourself or F. I'm making sure that's like a slur, like a long tone almost, that's interrupted by da. Da, da, da. And now I'm going to go da, 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 air is still going through there and sustaining. So, da, 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 still single tongue. Now I'm going to go double tongue. Da, ga, da, ga, da, and that's all you have to say. Say it out loud first. Da, ga, da, ga, da, and imitate that and make it sound as much like the single tongue as possible. And that's all I'm doing. Now, you can make it way more difficult than that, and most people end up doing that. That's the problem. And the thing my trumpet teacher told me in my very first lesson that I didn't understand for a while was the hardest thing about playing the trumpet is that it's so easy. Well, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, and then I had the light bulb come on. He was talking about things like this that really do make sense to me. Why make it so difficult? I hear people struggle. Right, so it's not all about the fronts. It's really making sure that we sustain that legato slur of the long tone underneath it. The air really needs to go through. So now I'm going to say da da ga da 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 ga da. And then I fix that passage. So you see how I'm sort of breaking down little elements. Find what's easy about it. Okay, the most elementary thing about what you're playing. Find that and then add little elements that challenge it. Okay? So we talked about finding the key, identifying what might be difficult about something so that you have a strategy. And then, you know, in the Philharmonic, I'll often have 14, concerts coming up, or some drastic number within a month, right? So, or even a few weeks sometimes. We have 6 Pops concerts. So the stack of folders on my stand can be 6, 7 deep. How do I practice all that stuff and be ready to play anything? Well, a lot of it is being efficient. So I can look through a folder and see what I'm already familiar with that it just needs brushing up. And I can also identify the things I really need to spend time on. The passages that are presenting particular difficulty. Say they're very, very high. Say they're very low, lots of tonguing, a different style, something very jazzy. Okay? So I'll find what's difficult about something. Identifying what's difficult is half the battle. And then making it not difficult. If it's high, let's say a passage like this. Okay, so that's got a particular passage that's going to have a challenge about high, all right? So for me, I've already kind of worked that part out. So what I did was make sure I made that lower octave really, really strong, and then make the top octave sound the same by being very, very efficient. And then I just imitate that really sort of wholesome, good tone that I'm getting in the bottom, I need to put up top. And then, well, that's kind of fun. All right, so I've given you some ideas. Everybody go wash your hands. I think you've got a few things to chew on. Make sure you try stop method, go ahead method. Break things down into smaller groups, maybe 2 notes at a time. Avoid the obvious, so try not to get on the pogo stick of ba 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 bum 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 bum. Every other note. Go across bar lines. Don't get stuck on downbeats all the time. Music has to move and lead from somewhere to somewhere. All right, those are some of my tidbits. Everyone, stay safe. Hope you are learning a lot on your online courses. Hi, Zach. Take care, everyone.